we're going to go back to the English-Irish sort of debate, but it's already starting again, isn't it? They've come straight over here and beating our best, standing on its head.
Is it not the case that you need to get sort of significant high-level experience into horses, streetwise enough, to cope at that pace and that level?
You do.
In the summer months of each national hunt season, I will review what the official ratings are on the BHA website and the IHRB. So I know the stance where we've got novice hurdlers, novice chasers, season chasers, season hurdlers, and I can see what the number of those good horses or bad horses or potential horses or better rated horses are for the coming season. Now, I've been doing this since 2018-19 all the way up to last season, 2022. Now, for the purpose of the data within here, I am excluding the 2019-2020 season. I do go on to more grade 1 specific stuff, or the top level things, and the fact that Aintree wasn't there and it wasn't a complete season with restrictions, etc. They're just not in the data set. But what I'm going to show you first is horses with an end of season rating of 120 plus. Now, of course, the way that it's done in the BHA and the IHRB is slightly different, but there has to be a line drawn somewhere. And this is the line that I've chosen. So 2018-19, Britain had 3 times as many horses rated 120 plus than in Ireland. In the 2020 season, 2021, they had 2.5 times more horses rated 120 plus. And in last season, 2021-2022, they had twice as many horses with an end of season rating of 120 plus. The point of me showing you this is when we look at those top end numbers, is there a reason really why we don't have enough horses that can compete at those levels? Is it the fact that the racing's just not as competitive? Is it the fact that we just don't have as many good horses? Well, I just want to dispel the myth that we don't have enough good horses in this instance. Now, if we look at last season, and I'm going to put these into rating bands, 120 all the way up to 180s, this will show us where the difference starts to slope in. So we're expecting that Britain are going to have more than Ireland potentially in every single band, but that's not necessarily what you would be thinking. As I say, we know the Irish horses are better at the top end, or at least we think they are. You can see that Britain are ahead in the earlier buckets. And you could say that now, naturally it would drop off towards the end, but you could just see the linear line across. They've got more horses rated 120 plus, so the percentage split could be the same the whole way across. Now, I'm talking about percentage split. I have got the view the same as that, but let's just jump into the 150 band where we can see that of a smaller sample of horses, Ireland already have more in the 150, the 160, the 170 and 180 brackets. Now, if we do look at it on a percentage term, we can see that 150 plus, this is the line that I'm drawing. I'm talking graded races. I'm looking grade 1s. You can sneak a grade 1 if you're 150-ish or a little bit above, especially in Britain. Now, we can see there's 4.2% of Britons in there, 1.7 in the 160s, 0.3% after that. So we've got 6.2% of Britain's horses 150 plus. If we go to Ireland, we've got 11.2, we've got 3.9%, we've got a 0.7 and a 0.2. So there's about 16% of Ireland's horses that are in there. That's more than 2.5 times in terms of ratio Ireland to Britain. If we squeeze ourselves up a band, the 160 band, we've got ourselves 2%. You can see of British horses there. And then we can see that we've got 4.8% of Irish horses. So it's just under 2.5. But again, the picture's still painted the same. Pro rata, they have about 2.5 times more better class horses than we do. So I guess the question is to look into why. So here we're looking at the top 500 horses in Britain and in Ireland, and they're grouped by their average max official rating at the season end, and then I've popped them into buckets, so the top 500 all the way down to the top 10, just so we can start to see where the difference may be. Now, I've covered the 3 seasons mentioned before, so everything bar the COVID year, and we can see in 2018-2019, Britain are well ahead in theory on those bottom numbers, but when we get to the top horses, the top tier, you know I'm a snob, I like my graded races. We see there's not really much difference, but Ireland are a bit in front. We look at 2020 and 2021, it's a very similar picture. Ireland's spark lines don't come in until those top 3 tiers, but again, the difference isn't massive apart from when you look at those lower numbers, i.e. the lower buckets, the top 500, 400s, etc., where Britain do appear to be ahead. And then we look at the average max official rating for 2021, 2022, but we can see the spark line for Ireland has grown quite a bit there, and you can see that the difference has too. So the point of me showing you this, well, we're going to look at it season by season, and I'm going to explain to you where I think the big problem lies with the lack of competition. Now, of course, with the sample that I've talked about so far, we're looking at 120 rated plus horses. And of course, each season, there was a different balance, a different number of those horses in each jurisdiction. So when we look at this first one, 2018, 2019, Britain had 3 times as many horses as Ireland. So technically, of these top 120 races, or the horses rated above 120, for Britain, we're taking the top third of those horses. Whereas for Ireland, well, we're capturing the vast majority, and we're capturing 500 of their 600 horses. So again, with these sort of things, we're looking at a balance to try and get an argument in here. So the table that's put in below is the percentage. This is the percentage of total horses that are rated 120 plus that they have for Britain and Ireland. So although they've put them into the top 500s, I'm showing you where the numbers lie. So the ratio for 3-1 for 2018, 2019, obviously, if we had top 10, it would be top 30 for Britain. And if we had top 100, then we've got top 300. So you can see there, the one I've marked green is the best comparison. Now, the average races, when we're looking at them against each other there, like I say, it looks like when we get to the top tier is where the problem lies. But if I show you something with the top 10 and top 25 to begin with, 171 versus 162, there is a £9 difference in those top buckets of horses when we look at it in relation to how many horses we have. When we look at the top 100 to top 300, so this is pretty much the 3-1 ratio we were looking for in terms of numbers, it's an £8 difference. So there's a pound difference between those two, but we're looking around about half a stone, if not a bit more. We know this as just a general rule of thumb that when an Irish horse comes and runs in a British handicap, we would say that they are £8 better. So we're going to chuck that number up. Of course, when we're talking about graded company, where do you stop? Like, it gets to the point it's not a handicap, but categorically we're saying they are £8 better horses in the main. Does this pattern continue as we look onto 2020 and 2021? So again, the variance, the difference and the spark lines were very similar to the season before. We see the ratio has dropped down now. So top 10 to top 25 is a great example to use. Top 200 to top 500 is another example that we can look at. So the first one we're going to dip in with is top 10 versus top 25. There is a £7 difference. When we look at the top 200 versus the top 500, there is a £7 difference. As I say, it's something else that we all know. We know that the Irish horses, in theory, pound for pound on their rating systems, are that bit better. But I'm going to move on to the previous season because the ratio does drop down. We've got a few more samples we can look at and we'll get a feel for if this pattern is continuing, because we can notice here there is a bigger difference in the difference column, and that spark line is dragged massively over to Ireland's favour for those top 100. So are we expecting to see a more drastic impression here, or are we looking to see much of the same? As I say, it's a 2-1 ratio, so it's much easier to compare when we're looking at the top numbers and the top buckets to see where we're at. And we're going to look at the top 25 versus the top 50, and you'll see there is an £8 difference. We can look at the top 50, we can look at the top 100. It's an £8 difference. Top 100 versus top 200 is an £8 difference. I bet you can guess that the top 200 versus the top 400 is an £8 difference. Ultimately, pound for pound, the British horses just aren't as good as the Irish. I still do blame the competitive nature for that. But when it comes to dealing with a solution for these sort of things, I think we do just have to admit that the British horses aren't as good as we think we are, rather than suggesting the Irish horses are better. Now, there are lots of horses that have run well through handicapping spheres and all those sorts of things, but there are plenty of horses in Britain that will achieve 150 plus rated, or any of these buckets to be fair, but 150 plus would typically be where I'd shout it, that I don't think have done enough to warrant that sort of number. A grade 1 winning horse in this country, a grade 1 winning horse in any country should be 160 plus rated. We have horses over here capable of winning a grade 1 that are in the 150s, so just by default and the stature of the race that they're winning, their marks can go higher, and we're pretending that we've got these better horses when in reality we really don't. In Britain last season there were 40 grade 1s. There will be 39 this season because the finale juvenile hurdle at Chepstow has been reduced to a grade 2. Now, of those 40 grade 1s, Britain won 23, so it means Ireland won 17, 57% to Britain and 43% to Ireland. But if we look at the figures where there was only Irish runners included in the grade 1s, there was 32 of those races and 15 were won by Britain, still the 17 by Ireland. So Ireland are ahead, but not the demolition that people may be thinking. We'll see when we come to the festivals later how that pans out. Now, the official average rated of a British horse to win a grade 1 was 158, and for an Irish horse was 164. So again, we'll go back to the fact that the Irish horses, tier for tier, just seem to be that little bit better, and maybe British horses are picking up a couple of cheap grade 1s. Now, in Ireland, there are 37 grade 1s. Of these 37 grade 1s, Britain picked up 2 and Ireland won 35. So we talk about this whole ratio of fixture list and all those sorts of things. In Britain, we have 3 times as many horses and we have about the same number of grade 1s. In Ireland, they have fewer horses but more grade 1s, and we're talking about this country being a case of there's too many grade 1s to run in. I think that's nonsense. And Ireland actually do run in, obviously, all of their grade 1s at home, but then, like I say, there was 32 of the grade 1s in Britain. They also come over and run in. So as far as I'm concerned, you can't have too many grade 1s if you have the calibre of horses. Let's look at the calibre of horses. The average official rating for a British horse going over to Ireland to nick a grade 1 was 154. That's astonishing. And if you look at the Irish horses, the average official rating was 161. So it would show that the average official rating for Irish horse when they win a British grade 1 is a bit higher because they're using their best horses, but still the average official rating of 161 to win grade 1s in Ireland across the board, that's novices and open, I don't think it's a bad number. Now, this does mean that across Britain and Ireland won 68% of the grade 1s that were available. Big number, but again, probably not a surprise. Let's look at the festivals in isolation. Cheltenham, we're going to know what the picture is here, but Britain won 4 grade 1s, Ireland won 10, so that's 29% for Britain, 71% for Ireland. The average official rating for British horse was 161, but for Ireland was 165. Again, we don't have so many of them, but we do have some good horses in this country. We just need to bridge that gap and get the best of them up. But again, there is a gulf in the fact that the official rating of an Irish horse was better than Britain. And obviously they've won more races, so maybe that would ring true. Anyway, if we were to look at Aintree 2022, we've got 7 for Britain and 4 for Ireland. Go on the Brits, 64% and 36% to Ireland. But let's take a look at the average official rating of winners. Down to 155 for a British horse and 159 for Ireland. That's down on both when we compare them in terms of festivals. And not that I want to take the status away from the Aintree Festival, I like it, but these are more typical of a grade 2 type winner.
So what now? Well, there's one obvious answer that we all know, and that is to reduce racing. If we look at the average field size in Britain versus Ireland, we have 9 versus 12. That's a 25% reduction to fixture list just to bring those on parity. Now, if we look at the recent field sizes that were as low as 8, then we need to reduce that fixture list by 33%. This does run deeper though. We need to increase competitiveness. That's going to happen with a reduction as far as I'm concerned. We need to look at our handicapping, and once again, once we have more competitive racing, we probably won't be overrating horses, but we do need to embrace what is working. British National Hunt Racing is a fantastic sport, so I think it's about time we start to focus on the good stuff.
He's under 11 stone 12, one of the great performances in John Ray's history.
They say they never come back. This is one of the great comebacks in the history of the Cheltenham Festival.
Pedigree, inexperienced, no object, a novice, the first for 40 years. But Frodon has won the King George.